All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, when Michael Jordan made his appearance on the Today Show, I knew that the snippet that the mainstream liberal sports media was going to harp on and hone in on was the portion of the interview pertaining to Mr. Steph Curry, when the interviewer Craig Melvin asked Michael Jordan if there were any updates to his all-time starting five. For those of you who don't know, many years ago, there was an interview in which Michael Jordan was asked who his all-time starting five would be, and he listed Magic Johnson at point guard, himself at shooting guard, Scottie Pippen and James Worthy at forward, and Hakeem Olajuwon at center. That's Michael Jordan's own personal starting five. Of course, the haters have flocked in abundance to claim that Michael Jordan does not know how to pick teams. He does not understand what talent is in other NBA players, so on and so forth. There have been people like Jay Williams who've gone about trying to castigate Michael Jordan for how he appraises NBA talent. It is what it is. Jay Williams is just a burnout who should count himself fortunate that he's even on television today, but that's neither here nor there. The point being is that, once again, Michael Jordan sticks to his guns, and he's very consistent. He comes from a very strong patriarchal atmosphere, a very strong fatherly environment, and those of us who are raised in those environments know that we were taught a certain way. You cannot put the wagon before the horse. That's an old saying from back in the day. Don't put the cart before the horse, meaning what? Finish the curriculum, finish the pathway, finish what you start. And that's all Michael Jordan's point was when Craig Melvin asked him about Stephen Curry, and Michael Jordan said that he's not in the Hall of Fame yet. Originally, I was not even going to make a video about this, but I said to myself, now that I've thought of a theme or motif to link to this story, I'll just do a video on it, because we all have to earn what we get in life. I tell you brothers this all the time: you're too good to be working in the white man's corporate offices. They're not for the so-called black man. A lot of you brothers have visions for yourself, and you fail yourself when you don't seek after your vision, when you don't take advantage of the gift or the gifts that the Most High gave you. When you sit up in a cubicle all day knowing that you're miserable, having to deal with the bullshit from the liberal black woman on the job and the other races on the job giving you a hard time, you're only hurting yourself, and you're taking years off of your own life. You're hampering your own happiness. That's all that you're doing. Michael Jordan understands that when he embarked on his mission to become a great professional athlete, he had to follow all the steps and finish the route, finish the path, finish the curriculum. And he's holding Stephen Curry to the same standard. He knows that if Stephen Curry retires tomorrow, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Everybody knows that, but he's not retired yet. So Michael Jordan is not qualified to put him in the Hall of Fame. But just to get back to the point, when you start on that pathway, on that mission, on that crusade, whatever you want to call it, make sure that you finish what you start. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Steph Curry and the Warriors obviously kicking off the season. This is Thursday night in San Francisco against the Clippers. All eyes will be on the two-time MVP trying to adjust without KD, and now we're hearing Klay Thompson for the entire season. Meanwhile, during a recent interview on the Today...
And by the way, Klay Thompson will not be gone for the entire season. He will be back sometime right after the All-Star break, no doubt in my mind. Late February, early March.
So Michael Jordan was asked who he'd want to team up with in a pickup game. He took Scottie Pippen, Hakeem, Magic, and Worthy.
That's a very small team. They're going to have to run whoever they play off the floor in that hypothetical tournament of greatest fictional teams of all time. I was talking with people about Michael's starting five, and I was telling them that team is very small. But the person I was talking to said it doesn't matter. If you're able to field a squad like that or bring a team like that onto the basketball floor, they're going to beat everybody because they have all their bases covered. In my view, if they were to face a team that was tall, especially in the front court, say they faced a team that had Larry Bird, LeBron James, and Bill Russell or Kareem or Shaq in the front court, that would be very difficult for Michael Jordan's team. And for the people who thought that Michael Jordan was being petty or silly when he chose the players that he chose, understand that there was a rhyme and a reason to every player that he chose on the team. At center, Hakeem Olajuwon was the player who was chosen ahead of him in the 1984 draft, and Michael Jordan has always held Hakeem in great admiration. One of the more prominent hypothetical or fictional debates to this day is who would have won in a 1994 finals matchup between the Chicago Bulls and the Houston Rockets had Michael Jordan not stayed retired. I promise you that one person who does not want to know is Michael Jordan, because he knew that the Bulls had no answer for Hakeem. They played in 1991, 92, and 93, 6 times in the regular season in total, and I believe that the Bulls just won 1 time. Now, of course, we know that's the regular season. In the playoffs, they would have time to game plan for Hakeem, but take it from me and anyone else who saw Hakeem Olajuwon play, he was unstoppable. He was the best passer from the low post in the history of the NBA. He had the best low post and mid post moves of any center in the history of the NBA. He had the best handle of any center in the history of the NBA from the mid post position. He revolutionized low post play with the intricacy of his moves. He and Michael Jordan had the most intricate low post and mid post moves of any players in the history of the NBA. Kevin McHale, of course, had tremendous low post moves, but his moves did not really extend out to the mid post and to the elbow like Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon. So that's why Jordan chose Olajuwon. Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan chose because a lot of people don't know this. Magic Johnson was Michael Jordan's hero all the way back in high school. When Michael Jordan was in high school, he looked up to Magic Johnson, even though Magic Johnson was just in the NBA in 1979. Michael Jordan admired him, and as a matter of fact, one of Michael Jordan's nicknames in high school was Magic because he used to get a lot of triple doubles. As most of us know, he played with James Worthy at North Carolina, and he also played with Scottie Pippen in the professionals. And he won championships with Scottie. He also won a championship with James Worthy in college. He won a gold medal with Magic. So that's why he picked those players. What would truly be interesting is if that reporter had followed it up by asking Michael Jordan who would be the 5 players on his team coming off the bench. That would be more entertaining than anything else.
Asked if Steph Curry should be offended, MJ has been.
Steph Curry shouldn't be offended when he watches. I hope not. He's still a great player. Not a Hall of Famer yet, though. He's not. Cheers. Cheers, my friend.
It wasn't that funny. Michael Jordan's one of those guys that when he holds court, all these dudes like Stephen A. Smith and Michael Wilbon, they know they better laugh at everything that Michael says or they're probably going to get kicked out of the party.
Classic.
This is
Michael,
great. You saw the twinkle in Michael's eye. We know this from sitting around locker rooms and places with Mike. Michael loves Steph Curry. This I know, okay, from enough of a concert. By the way, in this very room, the last time, all-time Mount Rushmore great, Magic Johnson, dared to comment. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't Magic. Magic was on with us. But when Doc Rivers dared to comment on Kawhi Leonard, what happened?
Got fined.
Tampering fine.
Yeah.
Michael Wilbon, I promise you, Michael Jordan's comments had nothing to do with the fear of tampering. All he was doing was answering the question. The interviewer asked him why Steph Curry would not be on his team, and that's how Michael chose to answer. It had nothing to do with him worrying about being fined by Adam Silver for tampering. He could care less about that shit.
If Michael Jordan right there says, put Steph in the Hall of Fame right now, there are people saying, fine him. It's a tamper. It's a stupid
Why would Michael Jordan say that when that was not the question that he was asked?
rule. Anytime a league puts a
Michael Jordan was never asked, do you think that Steph Curry is a Hall of Famer? He decided that he was going to state that Steph Curry would not be good enough to make his all-time team because he's not in the Hall of Fame yet. If any of you cats have gotten the chance to see the Dream Team documentary that sometimes comes on NBA TV, Michael Jordan stated in that documentary that there would never be another Dream Team or NBA Olympic team that had 12 Hall of Famers on the squad. So that's very big to him and for him that he's surrounded by his peers, that being Hall of Famers. He takes that very seriously, even though, to be quite frank with you, the professional basketball, or the basketball Hall of Fame, I should say, is a big joke. They let everybody in. Vlade Divac is in the Basketball Hall of Fame. So, I mean, there's only so much that you could take seriously about the Basketball Hall of Fame.
muzzle on its greatest assets. So basically right now, because they've been in basketball, Magic until recently, you're saying that Magic can't comment, Larry Bird can't comment, Michael Jordan can't comment on the state of the game and individual players. That's a dumb rule, and they should never have it.
And in the interest of full disclosure, Mike and I have argued with the league officials about this constantly for years.
For years.
We've all had
so it's
had
ridiculous.
A problem with that rule.
But Michael had a twinkle in his eye. He's not saying that Steph Curry's not a Hall of Famer. He purposely named his dream team guys.
Well, some of the guys that he named were on the dream team. You can't say that he named his dream team guys because out of the 5 members of Michael Jordan's hypothetical team, only 3 of those guys were on the dream team. James Worthy, Hakeem Olajuwon were not on the dream team, Michael Wilbon. So it's very obvious that you're so desperately trying to defend Michael Jordan, you don't even understand what your argument is. All you have to say is that Michael Jordan sets very strict parameters for what's acceptable for him. He knows that there is a pathway that he had to take and that every person, every player that he's going to accept into his zone, into his realm, has to go down that same pathway. And he's letting Stephen Curry know, if this is a 25-step path, you've only completed about 20 steps. You have 5 more steps to go. If you train 5 months to run a marathon and you quit after the 24th mile, when a marathon is a little bit over 26 miles, that's even worse than never having trained at all because you started something that you did not finish.
For all the guys who get upset, like our dear friend Jay Will this morning about MJ's 290s, you want to...
Yeah, Jay Williams was trying to rank on Michael Jordan. He was trying to play the dozens on Michael Jordan's suit. As a matter of fact, Michael Jordan's suit cut was modernized in that interview with Craig Melvin. So you couldn't even say that he was walking around with the baggy suits from the 90s. But it's very clear. Jay Williams has a personal issue with Michael Jordan. A lot of these guys that you see on TV got talked trash to by Michael Jordan back in like 2000, 2001 when he was prepping to come into the NBA. And they still haven't gotten over some of the things that he said to them. Because Jay Williams even stated that Michael Jordan and Gary Payton were the 2 biggest trash talkers that he ever competed against. And I said to myself, when did Jay Williams go against Michael Jordan? I said, maybe Michael's first year with the Wizards, when Jay Williams first came into the NBA, or maybe back when Michael Jordan was prepping to come back into the NBA when he was playing against many of the top college basketball players and some of the pros. But it's obvious to me that Michael said some things to Jay Williams that Jay Williams probably didn't like. Keep in mind that Jay Williams went to the Chicago Bulls. So knowing Michael, he probably said all types of shit like, you'll never take my place. I got 6 banners up there. You know, you'll be lucky to get 1. And then Jay Williams also played for Duke. So you have that Duke, North Carolina issue as well.
Out there, does it beat the dream team? I'll take that team against any team Jay Will wants to put together.
Let me say,
historically, now.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. You'll appreciate this. So he talks to MJ all the time. Obviously, I talk to MJ frequently. And the position is consistent.
It's consistent. It's very not a surprise.
I mean,
right?
he and this is MJ, just so y'all know. He's not saying that you're not going to the Hall of Fame. MJ's thing is he don't want to hear a damn thing from people who are still playing.
Finish the process.
Finish the process. His whole thing is don't tail off, don't fall off the map. Don't play like garbage for the last 8-10 years of your career or whatever. No.
And not even so much that. Really what Michael's saying is that you should be still in the moment. Why would you want to presume something when you still have the opportunity to take your legacy and amplify it to heights that maybe you have not even dreamed of yet? If you were to tell Michael Jordan at 29 years old, you're going to win 4 more championships, he probably would have said, wow. I believe it, but wow. You have to live your life day by day, set goals, and accomplish your goals piece by piece. And then after everything is done, then you can look back and admire your handiwork. When a painter is in the midst of a masterpiece, he doesn't stop 10% of the way through and look at the canvas and say, oh man, this is tremendous. It's after it's done that he looks and he admires his handiwork.
Keep performing, because in his eyes, I'm just being clear, in his eyes, you are not a Hall of Famer until you finish. And until you finish, you don't belong in the conversation of those of us who have. I've told you this many times, Max. I run across Hall of Famers.
Damn, Steph was giving it to him right there. Shit. Steph was giving it to him. Let me rewind this back a little bit.
The time. You don't belong in the conversation of those of us who have. I've told you this many times, Max. I run across Hall of Famers all the time.
That's embarrassing. If I was the coach, I would have called timeout and pulled his ass out the game. You let that guy do a curly kneel on you like that? Come on, man, foul him.
The number one thing they hold people like me, people like Will.1 and others accountable for is Hall of Famers despise when we crown people and put people on their level and not force them to go through the same process those guys had to go through en route to it. They really have a personal problem with us.
Yes, and that's why Michael Jordan was so disgusted at LeBron James when LeBron's dumbass sat down and said he became the greatest player ever when he defeated Golden State back in 2016. I mean, talk about a joke. But LeBron James is a big joke.
I actually think you guys are missing this. Michael Jordan talks with an agenda. He's so insanely, defectively competitive, which is why he's the greatest player, one of the reasons he's the greatest player who ever lived, clearly, that he always has an agenda when he talks. Look at this team. It's ridiculous. Magic Johnson clearly is the point guard on any team. It doesn't come. This is like it's like distraction. Magic, Steph, yeah, it's Magic. We get it. He's 6'9". He's a 5-time champion. He's the greatest point guard who ever lived. What's James Worthy doing on that team? North Carolina teammate. What's Scottie Pippen doing on that team? Chicago Bulls. He took his best teammate from college and his best teammate from the pros. He wasn't going to leave those guys off. And the question was, who does he want to run with, right? The fact is, if you had that team, you wouldn't have Worthy. Even if you didn't want LeBron, you'd have Bird. And you wouldn't have Pippen, you'd have LeBron. Like, there's a better team to put together. The question is, who does he want to play with?
And based on what you just said, explain to us what your thought process is when Michael Jordan has been on the record in the past saying he'd take Kobe over LeBron. Explain.
Well, before you explain that, let me also expound on what Max Kellerman was alleging for the reasons why Michael Jordan picked who he picked. I wouldn't say that it was agenda-driven. I would say that it was experience-driven. Michael Jordan is someone who, and a lot of men are like this, we become set in a certain route, a certain way of doing things, and we start to lean on people who we can count on, especially when we know that it's a crucial moment. Michael Jordan knows that James Worthy is going to be great in crucial moments. People forget, even though Max Kellerman tried to marginalize James Worthy, he had a nickname, Big Game James. When the going got tough, James Worthy made big shots. It's difficult to understand that because Magic Johnson got a lot of the, he got a lot of the press. Kareem got a lot of the credit as well. But James Worthy was arguably one of the top 5 players in the NBA in the mid to late 80s. And Scottie Pippen is arguably the most underrated player of all time, at least for those people who did not see him play. In my view, he's properly rated. I would put Scottie Pippen somewhere in between 30 to 40 on the greatest players of all time. But when it comes to Hakeem Olajuwon, I've already stated, Hakeem Olajuwon, you can argue he's as high as 6th greatest player of all time in my view, or as low as 10. I have him somewhere around 9 or 10 on my list. I have to put Tim Duncan ahead of him, even though I think Hakeem was greater than Tim Duncan was, because Tim Duncan won more championships and had more accolades.
Kobe Bryant is the embodiment of the Michael Jordan ethos. Like, he's basically a clone. And as a clone, he's not quite as good, but he got, like, the whole world was trying to be like Mike. Kobe basically did it. LeBron is, like, to me, the first postmodern player in the sense that he was an MVP level player who was a wing who said, nope, I'm not going to just try to be like Mike. I'm going to be like Magic and Mike had a baby. I'm going to do my...
Many television pundits like a Max Kellerman love to make the comparison of LeBron James to a hypothetical hybrid of Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson. And that's not really accurate. LeBron James, as I've already stated, is really Oscar Robertson 2.0. A great passer with very high individual basketball IQ. The difference between Oscar Robertson and LeBron James is obviously LeBron is larger, he's faster, and he's a greater natural athlete than Oscar Robertson. But Oscar Robertson has a higher basketball IQ and understands how to be a part of a system more. He also knows how to play off the basketball better than LeBron James. The difference is, once again, not only errors, but also their physical characteristics. But LeBron is Oscar Robertson 2.0. He really does not have anything in common with Magic Johnson or Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan had far greater body language than LeBron James. LeBron, he just seems to be like this oversized dump truck that just comes down the lane and barrels over people. Michael Jordan was extremely graceful. And when it comes to passing, people love to compare LeBron James to Magic Johnson. It's not even close. Magic Johnson is about 2 or 3 levels above LeBron James as a passer. LeBron is not even as good a passer as Larry Bird.
He was the first guy to he didn't have a problem wearing 23 like Kobe did, because he was like, yeah, I can give this tip my cap to him because I'm not trying to be him. So Jordan, of course, prefers the guy who's trying to be him.
That's what you saying about LeBron?
What's that?
Yes. What you said. That is a lie.
Okay.
The fact of the matter is, one of the things that has been religiously held against LeBron James is that he came into the league wearing the same number. He's on the cover of Sports Illustrated as the chosen one, and he talked about what he wanted to be, and he identified Jordan. He only that's not the point. He told you what his objective was, and the only time it changed was when he failed, when he didn't measure up.
Absolutely.
LeBron James did not come into the league with Jordan's game.
No, we know that.
Well, that's already known. LeBron James does not stylistically resemble Michael Jordan, but he did try to act as if he was Michael Jordan's unclaimed, illegitimate son. He conducted himself like he just showed up at Michael Jordan's proverbial door and said, "Daddy, let me in." And I think that's one of the reasons why Michael has always been very uncomfortable with LeBron. I go over this motif many times on this channel, the importance of the patrilineal connection or the father-son connection, the patriarchal energy or the patriarchal archetype, that dynamic that has become so much of an anathema in this current society. Well, Michael Jordan is an embodiment of the production of that type of energy. And LeBron James is the embodiment of the production of the mother goddess energy. He has that spirit of the quote unquote divine child, the spoiled brat who has both male and female characteristics. And I think that subconsciously, that's the reason why Michael Jordan's not really feeling him like that. He more feels Kobe, because Kobe also resonates that patriarchal aspect, or that, that male energy per se.
Playing the same position, trying to talk like him at press conferences. He came in doing his own thing. Kobe came in, obviously, having studied the greatest who ever did it, and said, I'm going to be a better version of him. LeBron said, no, I'm going to be a new thing.
No. What LeBron was doing, I'm talking about when he started and the kind of imagery he gave off. And you can chime in here, Michael. That's what he was held accountable for, because he quickly learned what Michael did, what Kobe was trying to do and ultimately did, was something he couldn't do because he didn't have that same makeup. I told you for many years, the number one thing, I know that LeBron James is phenomenal and great, but the one thing to be held against him that's undeniable that he still hasn't gotten over as far as I'm concerned is this. He failed so often before he got to that point. I'm talking about mentally. Michael came into the league as a killer. Kobe came into the league as a killer. LeBron had to mature into becoming a killer.
What you're talking about is the makeup. Let's go back to that.
The makeup.
It's just different. And I don't really, that's why the comparison between, we're going to historically compare LeBron James and Michael Jordan, whether it's championships, absolutely different. When Michael looked at Kobe from day one, he saw someone who was more similarly suited to follow him in that lineage, from Elgin Baylor to Julius Erving to Michael Jordan to Kobe Bryant. Right. LeBron is outside of that. He's a different type of player, a different type of person. And so, to me...
Yes, he's of the Oscar Robertson lineage. Really, if you want to go there, is Oscar Robertson, and you could kind of say Magic Johnson is an offshoot of the Oscar Robertson lineage, but not a direct descendant per se. And then it kind of sort of picks up at Scottie Pippen as another branch, and Grant Hill as another type of branch. And LeBron James is kind of a combination of all those players per se. But to say that he's of direct descent from Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan, no.
Looking at that entire dynamic, if you don't take that into account, how different they are, and that LeBron is not in that lineage, then we missed the point.
And my point to you is that I totally agree with that. That's an accurate depiction. But initially coming into the league, that's not what he expressed as his intent. And so as a result, what we did...
Well, we also have to take into account that Yes, LeBron James did admire Michael Jordan, but I also believe that he understood that the NBA wanted him to market himself as the next Michael Jordan. And I've touched on this in many videos. The NBA, and just like the NFL, it's a television show. And in order for you to have a long-running TV program, you have to have storylines that blend into each other. When Michael Jordan retired in 1998, that left a huge gap in the league that they were not able to fill right away. That's why they needed him to come back. The year after Jordan retired, the San Antonio Spurs won a championship, and that was a huge problem for the NBA because nobody watched. That's why they needed Phil Jackson to go coach the LA Lakers and try to build up a young, burgeoning, very talented team in a major market that they could hope would possibly fill in where the Chicago Bulls, the most popular dynasty in the history of the NFL, had left a major void, a major vacancy. Of course, the Lakers won in 2000 and then won again in 2001, but there were still issues in the league because not only were they dealing with that void, they were dealing with declining ratings, and they were also dealing with the quote-unquote thug hip-hop image that was starting to permeate into the NBA through the prominence of hip-hop at the time, Jay-Z and other artists that were very influential on the NBA players. Of course, Allen Iverson and the impact that he was having on the league. This was hurting the image of the NBA, as well as their ability to develop business dealings and business partnerships, because major corporations did not want to align themselves with an Allen Iverson themed league like they did a Michael Jordan themed league. So therefore, they begged Michael Jordan to come back, knowing that in a couple of years, they were going to be able to build up the entrance of LeBron James. That's why Michael Jordan stayed for 2 years. Once he leaves in 2003, who comes in 2003 the next season? LeBron James.
We got caught up in his initial words.
So the overall point is, LeBron understood what they wanted from him. LeBron understood what the NBA wanted from him. That being for him to buy into the notion that he is the prodigal son returning home. He is the direct descendant of Michael Jordan.
But so then his game, even though his game showed us something different.
At least that was the narrative that they wanted LeBron James to propagate, and he did so. He was very obedient.
I agree. If you want to say what's really underneath it with Mike, I agree with you. And I agree with you that Kobe had the Mamba mentality, right, that was more similar to Jordan's. That LeBron mentally was not as strong in that way, at least to begin his career. He had to get there. But there's also the point that Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant are apples to apples. They're a straightforward comparison.
That's right.
They had the same coach for crying out loud. And when you match them up, Jordan is a little bit better. Like, you could see the comparison. No one's arguing really seriously Kobe over Jordan. You can't make the argument.
There are plenty of people who try to make that argument, Max Kellerman. You'd be surprised the level of the idiocy of Kobe Bryant's super fans. They really are that dumb. But no, it's not like Michael Jordan is just slightly better than Kobe. He's discernibly better than Kobe Bryant was.
But because there's asymmetry with Jordan and LeBron, it's apples to oranges. It's a tougher comparison to make. And so Jordan has a feeling of competitiveness with LeBron toward LeBron that is different than toward Kobe. He wants to it's harder for him to make the point against LeBron.
By the way, I want to go back to something real quick. If you're Michael Jordan and you're asked that question of who you want to run with, why wouldn't you name Scottie Pippen?
He ran with it.
Who now we can look back historically. And Scottie was criticized a lot, particularly before the greatest ever.
Michael Wilbon makes a good point, but to me that even more highlights the level of respect that Michael Jordan has for Hakeem Olajuwon and Magic Johnson, because he never really played on a real team with either one of them. He never played with Hakeem at all, but he chose him. That shows you how much respect Michael had for Hakeem. Hakeem Olajuwon was without a doubt the best center of his generation, stemming from the mid-'80s all the way through to the mid to late 90s. He was better than Shaq. He was better than Ewing. He's better than Robinson. He was better than an older Kareem. He was better than an older Moses Malone. He was better than all those players, and discernibly so.
Pippen now, to me, winds up being probably the most underrated player in the modern history of the NBA. Underrated. Remember the Bulls, Michael and Phil, as much winning as they did, Phil did later on another team, but the Chicago Bulls didn't win without Scottie Pippen.
And you know what validates your point? Jordan retires, and if it wasn't for the bad call
in Madison Square Garden.
At Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Because I've got news for you. I say this to this very day, and I love my brother Kenny Smith. You know that. But let me tell you something. Kenny Smith, with Olajuwon and those boys, they don't beat the Chicago Bulls with...
That dude, Hugh Hollins, he had something out for the Chicago Bulls. Not even just that series. Hugh Hollins would make some of the worst calls that you could ever see against the Chicago Bulls. And no, I do not agree with Stephen A. Smith. I don't believe that the Bulls defeat the Houston Rockets in '94 without Michael Jordan. They don't have enough offense. They would not have had enough offense to win a slugfest like that, because they would have come into the series with a better player. You can make the case that Scottie Pippen could nullify Patrick Ewing to a degree when you look at everything that Scottie brought to the table. He was going to bring 22 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and non-per-real defense. Patrick was going to bring 24, 25 points, 10 rebounds, probably 3 or 4 assists, and great defense as well. They were going to nullify one another, offset one another. In the finals, Scottie would not have been able to offset Akeem. Akeem was too much.
By Scottie Pippen.
Yeah,
without Jordan. They don't beat him.
Let's put it this way. Let's put it this way.
They don't beat him.
When Jordan retired, it was pretty obvious that Pippen was the second best player in basketball behind Olajuwon, which means...
Well, that's debatable, Max Kellerman. I will say this. Throughout the 1993-94 season, there was some vacillation over who would be considered the MVP. For the most part, it was Hakeem, but there were some moments where Scottie Pippen took the lead momentarily. Eventually, Hakeem was declared the MVP winner of that season because he deserved it. He was the best player in the world. It was relatively close here and there. I'll say this. I'm not quite sure that we can discernibly state without a shadow of a doubt that Scottie was a better player than Charles Barkley that year or David Robinson that year. But for the most part, I agree with you.
Olajuwon in the parallel universe. Let's take Jordan out of the picture. Who's the best? Olajuwon's the best. Pippen was second. Pippen was the second best player in the league.
We're out of time,
he was better than Malone and Barkley and everyone else.
24 fouls to give. Those big boys. 24
That'll have
fouls
to do
to
it.
give.
When First Take returns from LA, we got a good debate for you guys. Buckle up for that.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see how things go for Mr. Steph Curry over the course of this season. I'm sure that he does not care one bit that Michael Jordan stated that he's not a Hall of Famer yet. As a matter of fact, I recently viewed an interview that Stephen Curry had in response to Michael Jordan's statements, and even he understood that it was just an issue with, as Steph stated, a wordsmith issue. He knew that Michael Jordan kind of worded it awkwardly, but he plays golf with Mike and them. He knows that Mike is a jokester and someone who likes to get under your skin. It is what it is. We all know that Steph is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer should the time come. So peace.